Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So what happened? Well, ABC conducted an interview with Dimitri Pescov. He is the Kremlin's spokesman. And during that interview, the media operative from ABC asked Peskov, what does Russia need in order to agree to the 30-day ceasefire? Or why is Russia rejecting a 30-day ceasefire? And Peskov gives a clear reason why. And we're going to discuss that answer, if it's justified, if it's the first time that anchor/operative heard that answer, if the West heard that answer. That's the first topic for this video. The second topic of this video is we have 4 baboons showing up in Kiev. And they demand and urge Russia agrees to ceasefire. Now, who are these 4 baboons? These are the new powerhouses in Europe. And that is the President of France, right, Macron. Then is the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Sir Starmer. Then is Mr. Merz, the new, supposed to be conservative Chancellor of Deutschland über niemals. And then obviously the another guy who tries to worm himself in, which is the Prime Minister of Poland, Mr. Donald Tusk. Well, Poland little by little worms its way into the powerhouses of Europe. Good for them. With authority comes responsibility. So, when you're gonna be asked to go and do something, you gotta do it. You're a power. Now you go and do it. So, when you're gonna be asked to go and pick up the hot potatoes from the coal, from the charcoal, from the fire, Poland, my Polish friends, you will do it for them. Not for you, for them. Then what are you going to say? No? Well, you have authority. You're a big power now. All right, I'm not picking on the Poles. I'm just warning them that that's what's going to happen. You grow, they feed you, they give you all the anabolics and all that in order to grow bigger, and then what do you think they will do with you? They will push you into fight. Otherwise, what? Do you think they're just going to have a fat fuck over there somewhere waiting, just feed him for nothing? No, they prepare you. All right, so let's start with the rejection of the 30-day ceasefire. Ukrainska Pravda. This article comes from Saturday, May 10th. Kremlin rejects 30-day ceasefire as long as Ukraine receives weapons. Is this news to you? If it's news to you, I don't know where you lived. It's the first time you showed up into, I don't know, a civilization or what. But maybe you don't have access to this kind of information, even though the Russians said this over and over again. Is it justified or reasonable to ask that? The ceasefire. Well, the ceasefire is not a time for respiro, where after a round or 10 rounds, you go and sit down on a stool over there, bar stool, and these guys are coming to pump things on you and push you back into the fight. That's not what a ceasefire is about, according to the Russians. Now, let me show you more articles and how they view this demand. I mean, it's outrageous. Outrageous. How could you demand that when we want to just get a little bit of rest a little bit and then come back and discuss with you from a different position? It's a regrouping time. Now, if the Russians demand this from the other side, not the Ukrainians, the other side, that means they're already going to do it, right? I mean, otherwise you're unfair. I mean, if I ask you or if I ask you to be loyal to me, that means I'm also loyal to you. Unless I'm your boss. When I'm your boss, no, I tell you, you gotta do it, I expect that, and I can change my mind at will. So which position do you think Russia is in right now versus the West? Not Ukraine. Ukraine, unfortunately, is just a finger who squeezes the trigger. That's all what Ukraine is, unfortunately, and this gets burned because it's too much, it's getting too hot, the pistol. All right, let's read a little bit here and then go over more articles before we go to the 4 baboons plus the goat. Goat, not the great of all time, the goat, the goat. That's a new term for Zelensky, I think. Kremlin spokesman Dimitri Pescov has stated that Putin has rejected the possibility of a 30-day ceasefire unless the West halts its weapon supplies to Ukraine. You have some options. You have to bring, okay, we're going to do this, but we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. You negotiate, you bring details. Only children and immature adults see life in black and white. I mean, we know that. With life, with experience, you realize that many things, or most things, are a shade of between white and black. Good and evil. It's not only like that. So when you negotiate something so important as this ceasefire, there will be a lot of little details. And the devil is in the details, because that's what it is. And one of the details is, well, we're going to stop, but no arming. Right. There you go. Peskov claimed that the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, now he's a leader by Ukrainska Pravda, is not a dictator today, has supported the proposal of 30-day truce, but came up with new reason that prevents Moscow from adhering to it. Well, no, it's not the new reason. They always said, we need to talk about certain details. Never said it, but hey, this is Ukrainska Pravda. And here he says, it will be an advantage for Ukraine, Peskov says. Ukraine will continue their total mobilization, bringing new troops to the front line. Ukraine will use this period to train new military personnel and to give rest to their existing ones. So why should we grant such an advantage to Ukraine, Peskov says. But the same thing is true for you, Peskov. But see, Peskov, as Lavrov says many, many times, said, if you haven't heard it, we have to accept the realities in the territory. That means we are beating your ass, you shush now. Remember, the loser doesn't get to set the terms. The loser just gets it. And unfortunately for the Ukrainian nation, it put itself in a position where it's between two big interests. Russian interest and the globalists' interest. The guys in charge of US, the interest, the economic, financial, military interest. That's it. And I think you were, infiltrated, took over, and you were pushed as a finger against these guys. And you are the biggest losers here. Biggest. And as long as you realize that and you get rid of this, I would say, traitors. But if you say traitors, a traitor is someone who actually is on your country, one of yours, and he, is supposed to be working for your country, and he goes somewhere else. Is this what Zelensky did? Or the guys who overthrew Viktor Yanukovych's government in 2014? All right, Peskov added that Putin is allegedly, and I'm quoting, doing whatever it's possible to solve the problem, to achieve a settlement through peaceful and diplomatic means. It says that, but in the absence of peaceful and diplomatic means, Moscow has to continue military operation. Well, the Russians would discuss differently this matter if they would be losing in the territory, but they're not. I mean, I'm not saying they are, galloping towards Berlin again, but the situation is as it is. Let's read another article, just the title. Again, ABC News, Kremlin insists armed deliveries to Ukraine stop before agreeing to ceasefire. Russia wants ends to arms supplies to Ukraine as ceasefire condition. US European weapons to Ukraine must stop to have ceasefire, Putin spokesman says. It's tricky because the Russians do not trust anybody at all at this point. I'm not about the guys in the West. They were lied repeatedly. And if you are offended by my statement, I will mention at least 2 times when the West lied. Or maybe that 3 times. First, remember when it was in 1991, and I will keep going to this because this is the centerpiece, the root cause of what's to come, maybe, and what has been happening in Ukraine. And not only, this is not the end. Ukraine is not going to be the end, because that, which is NATO, exists and has defensive ideas. But through the defensive ideas, it just advances and takes over countries voluntarily and comes close to other people's spheres of influence. That's the main point here. So in 1991, James Baker, if you remember, the then Secretary of State of the United States of America, he was an American, unlike others, he told the Soviets, Russians, it was the Soviets because Mr. Shevardnadze, the Georgian, like Stalin, another Georgian, Mr. Djugashvili, was the foreign minister of Soviet Union. And not only to Shevardnadze, to Gorbachev, Mr. Baker said, if you, Soviet Union, agree, if you agree, that means they had a say. If you agree with the unification of the German people, Germany is not unified yet, according to my understanding. Why? Austria is right there in the wind. All right, they need something else. And not only, there are many people in Poland and where they were just ethnically cleansed and transferred. That's what happened after the First World War and after the Second World War. So if you don't believe me, history is right there. All right. So the good old people, they tell me about the cleansing, ethnic cleansing in Yugoslavia by the Serbs, but the Poles and others did it after the Second World War with millions, plural, millions. They say transfer of population. Just imagine that the Serbs would have picked up some Albanians from Yugoslavia, Serbia, from Kosovo, and transferred them to Albania. How do you think that would have been called? So, all right, you did it massively. Millions of people, I think 2 million people from Poland were transferred because German territories were given to Poland by Stalin, the Georgian Soviet dictator. You cannot make shit up. And they transfer the population. So that means we don't want you here. Get the fuck out from your territory because now it's ours. So Poland, right? But nevertheless, I'm not here to bash Poland. It's just the second time. Third time is I don't know. So what's going on here? So these guys will continue obviously to provide the Ukrainians with weapons. And said, James Baker told those guys, the alliance, the NATO alliance, will not expand 1 inch, that's 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch eastward, that means towards Russia, Soviet Union, if you agree, that's part of your deal, with the unification of Germany. And the naive Soviets, Russians, how you want to call them, Georgians, thought that the civilized West is as the Hollywood portrays them. You know, civilized, this business-oriented, ein Mann, ein Wort, you know, all these kind of things, and freedom, democracy, and so on. So they fell for it, and they, in good faith, said, yes, we agree. Well, Germany unified, and NATO expanded, 5 times, about 1,000 kilometers towards. So, first lie. Second lie, remember 1994, it was the Budapest Memorandum in Budapest, Hungary, where it was Great Britain, United States of America, Ukraine, I can't remember if it was France and United Kingdom, I think they were, and at that time Russia. And they said, okay, we have to denuclearize Ukraine. Ukraine cannot have nuclear weapons. They decided. When Ukraine was yes. That tells you how independent people are around. I would have not given shit if I were Ukraine. That was a big mistake. I would be like North Korea right now, but I would be independent on my own. Instead of fat pig on the farmer's farm, which is going to be at one point Christmas time cut, I want to be a boar somewhere in the woods, a little bit thinner, hungrier from time to time, but free. That's me. All right? I don't like a fat guy in a cage versus a skinnier guy free or freer. So what's going on here? So then the memorandum, they decided, these powers signed it, that Ukraine will be neutral, give your weapons, and this is going to be guaranteed that neutrality of Ukraine will be respected. Well, it wasn't. Why? Because in 2014, it was a coup. It was an armed coup with casualties by the guys, helped by the guys, and recognized by the guys from the West, the guys who signed the papers of neutrality, and all of a sudden Ukraine broke its neutrality. The second lie, I can mention it in 2008 if you want, another lie, when, for instance, Mr. George W. Bush, the illiterate one, not the other one, not the spy, the guy in charge of FBI, CIA, what was he, Walker Bush. He told in Bucharest in the NATO summit, one day, Ukraine, at that time was neutral considered, one day Ukraine will join NATO, Ukraine and Georgia. How can it be part of NATO, buddy, when in 1994 we signed the Budapest Memorandum? You want me to give you more? Yeah, I give you more. Remember the second Minsk agreement, signed and, how do you call that? Guaranteed by France and Germany, that Ukraine will follow the Minsk agreements and peace will settle in Ukraine and so on, remember? And again, we found out through their own statement, Merkel and Hollande, Merkel, the former Chancellor, Hollande, the former President of France, they didn't have the intention to do anything with the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians said, we didn't want to implement anything about the Minsk II agreements. Nothing, zero. So we lied to you. You are stupid. So now the Russian says, no, we're not going to trust you. Squat. Let's go to the second topic. Here it is. The baboons meet in Kiev. Macron, Starmer, and German Chancellor Merz arrive in Kiev. This is the first one. Now, these are leaders. You can just, I don't know about you, my friends, but you have to know when you enter a room, after a certain age, and a certain experience, knowledge. When you enter a room, you look at people. I know we are supposed to not do that, but that's against reality. You get in a room and you kind of realize by the way people look, they're dressed, their manners, their behavior, you kind of get an idea of what kind of person it is. If it's a person like this, he can't be courageous. He can't be strong, you know what I mean? If you see people like this, talking like this, he can't be an up straight man and say, you know what, this is the way it is, my man. We talk like this, that's it, this is my point, that's your point, straight. If you see, it's just the way it is. So look at these people, and I want you to look at this. This is the leader of Germany. What the hell is this? Now look at this weasel and look at this one. This is like a pimp or a gigolo. This is, I don't even know what this guy is, man. He looks to me like Arthur Miller. You remember Arthur Miller, the writer that Marilyn Monroe screwed others? Anyway, you know him? It looked like Arthur Miller. And this guy looks, I have no idea. It looks like a, how do you call these guys that don't have facial hair? That don't grow, they can't grow. We call them spoon in Romanian. We call him some, they can't have children, so I can't remember the name. That's how I see this guy. And nothing wrong with that, but he looks like a woman. Like, I don't know, feminized. So these guys came to discuss what exactly? I'm going to show you the article where Mr. What's his name, Tusk shows up in the mix. So they came here, arrived in Saturday, May, for a meeting of a coalition of the willing. You know the coalition of the willing? Okay, let me tell you what the coalition of the willing is. As of, it was in, they said it was six countries. United Kingdom, then it was France, the Baltic states, which are 3, and they said another one that we cannot tell you the name. Now it's Germany, because it's Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and now Germany. You know what? But it's another one because it should be Poland as well. So let me show you. Boom, and let me show you another baboon showing up. Ukraine form. Look at this guy. Look at that. Look at that. Not his dick. What is this? What is this code, man? What's going on here? This guy understand, this guy. Look at that guy in the back. If these are your guests, you have these guys in the back? You should be at least, anyway, these are the leaders, right? Look at Tusk. I'm going to do it. Yeah. All right, and this is the Ukrainian Shikta, you call it, I think? Shikta. How do you guys call our women? Shikta, whatever. Leaders of France, Germany, Poland, UK urge Russia to agree to unconditional 30-day ceasefire. Now, my friends, you tell me how in the hell that is. Well, did I have sound over there? Yeah, I think I had sound. How unconditional? And they urge Russia. First, you are the losers. You don't get to dictate and urge anybody anything. The things are like upside down. Russia told them over and over again. Back off, back off, back off. And these guys still think they can do something. Well, I want these guys to settle scores. Once and for all, I want all these big, which is short, except, what's his name, Merz of Germany. I want these guys to say, no, Russia, we're going to give you an ultimatum. Like we gave Nazi Germany in the Second World War. The Brits, we're going to declare war on you if you enter there. Now they entered. Now why don't you just go and fight, man? If you really believe, as you say, that Russia is the biggest threat, the biggest that will come after Ukraine is going to come after everybody else, like Adolf. So if you really believe in this scenario and you give to the population, you should stop Putin in his track right now. But you don't. Why is that? Because you know, first, you can't. And the second one, you know that's not true. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Ceasefire? Yeah, there are some conditions. They are why? Because we're not baboons and we are in charge. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.